Hello guys and welcome to Salesforce for Noobs. In this video we are going to learn how to create CICD pipeline and deploy metadata files to Salesforce org using it with GitHub Actions. So we are going to use CICD tool of GitHub itself. Okay, so I want to explain some things before we dive in, right? Because I don't want you to just follow me blindly along with in this tutorial, and I want to give you first some kind of intro knowledge, some general intro knowledge before we actually start doing things in practice, right? So in general, what is CICD, right? So I strongly suggest you to read about it by yourself. Also, maybe you can watch videos about it, because CICD is not just specific to Salesforce, but it is general. It's used in many stacks, right? So generally in software development. But yes, still I will explain it briefly. So CICD is the process of automating building the artifact, testing the code and deploying it. In short, this is the explanation. So CICD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So CI, which is continuous integration, means like pushing code to the repository and doing merges frequently. This is what CI is. And then CD is either continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So there is one major key difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment, and this difference is that in continuous delivery there is still a manual step required from a person to confirm deployment to the target, let's say to production environment. However, in continuous deployment, everything is automatic and the deployment is totally automatic. So this is the key difference. But of course, there is huge information about CICD and what is its benefits and what problems it solves, etc. So I'm not going through all those things in this video, because then this tutorial will be huge. So you can do research about it, because there is plenty of information on the internet about CICD in general. Okay, now also what I want to mention is that there are many CICD tools in the world, right? You have Buildkite, Jenkins, GitLab also has its own CI tool, and yeah, there are many CICD tools, and they can be different from each other. For example, some of them may require you to download desktop applications. And in case of GitHub Actions, we are not required to download any desktop application. Also, some of the CICD tools might require you to create a runner, self-hosted runner, by yourself. And when I'm saying by yourself, I mean more not developers, because the creation of the runner is job of a DevOps. And what is the runner? Runner is a server or a virtual machine on which which will run CI/CD jobs. Okay, so CI/CD jobs like testing the code and deploying, so they should be run on a runner. Okay, and yeah, as I mentioned, it's more of a job of DevOps engineer to create a runner, because me as a developer, I have never created a runner, just to be clear. So GitHub Actions has its GitHub, it provides you with its hosted runner, so you don't have to create a self-hosted runner, because it's already there for you. Okay, so your jobs will run on a fresh runner each time, like you are provided with a fresh virtual machine. Okay, and you don't have to create it by yourself. Right, so is GitHub Actions only CI/CD tool? No. GitHub Actions allows you to automate many things in GitHub in general, but one of the use of GitHub Actions can be as a CI/CD tool. Okay, it's one of the use of GitHub Actions. Okay, what else did I want to mention? Yeah, also I want to give you a kind of high-level roadmap or high-level, let's say, guide of this video. What are we going to do practically? And as I mentioned, I don't want you just to blindly follow me. I want you to have a general roadmap in your head, and high level of understanding what we are just going to do, and then we are going to dive in practice. Okay, so so firstly we are going to create a user or use existing user for which will act as a deployment user. Okay, so I will, for the testing purposes, I will just use my user, my personal user on the dev org. But generally, the best practice is to have a separate deployment user in real projects created, which will be dedicated just for deployments. Okay. So now, when we will run CI/CD jobs, it will execute some commands, right? For example, logging in Salesforce org and deploying metadata files, right? So for that, we need to authenticate and authorize a CI/CD pipeline to do this, right? So we need some user to authorize, right? So we are going to use this user, which will be intended for deployment. And what authentication and authorization mechanism, what method we will use? We will use JWT method. And JWT is very useful so basically JWT is authentication and authorization, let's say, method or mechanism, which allows you to authorize and authenticate on behalf of a user and do some operations on behalf of a user when that user is not physically available at the machine and they cannot log in the system by themselves. Okay, so JWT allows you to do some operations on behalf of a user without the user being physically with the machine at that moment, right? So CI/CD job will be run, and it will try to log in Salesforce as the user. In this case, in my case, as my user. Okay, and it will try then to run commands and push metadata files to the org. Yeah, so how this is happening, how logging in will be available with this JWT method. So JWT, basically JWT token will be sent to Salesforce, and JWT token stands, so it's consisting of, JWT token is consisting of three parts: header, payload, and the signature. Right, so header is just mentioning like what kind of signing algorithm it is using, like SHA-256 or whatever. Also, what kind of token is it? In this case, it would be JWT type of token. And payload has the information. In our case, it will have connected app consumer key and also username, my username, with which it will authorize. CICD job will try to establish connection with Salesforce org, right? And then the signature part will have a private key, which we will create. So basically, in order to create, in order to start using the JWT, we need to create 3 files on our local machine. Firstly, we will create a private key, which is private key. We will create certificate signing request, which is mainly used when we want to send it to certificate authorization, so that they will grant us with the authorized certificate. But we don't need it in this case, because for Salesforce deployments it's totally sufficient to create self a signed certificate. So certificate which we will create by ourselves on the local machine in this video. Okay, it's not very complicated. I will show you how to do it. And the third file will be the certificate file itself, right? And then what we will do, we will create a connected app, and we will attach that certificate to that connected app. Okay, and the certificate also includes a public key. Okay, and when we are trying to log in Salesforce with the commands, with the command, so then we are sending the JWT token to Salesforce, right, which contains the consumer key and the username, and also the signature. Signature will be that private key, and then Salesforce will try to see with that public key, which is in the certificate, which is attached to the connected app. With the public key, it will verify that it is a valid certificate, right? And then it will grant us a access token, and then we are able to log in and do the operations in the org with the commands. Okay, so yeah, and then we are going to create CICD job, CICD pipeline itself. So pipeline, and we will write a YAML file which will hold the jobs, which will actually deploy metadata files. I know when we are, so I know that it sounds confusing, because I'm just saying these things, and you are not seeing it yet visually, but you will see in a few minutes, and it will all make sense soon. Okay, so I think this video will be really valuable for people who do not have experience with CICD at all, or they have experience but they still are lacking some clarity around this topic. And I also noticed that many interviewers are asking about experience with the CICD to middle-level developers and senior developers, actually. So I think it can be really useful and valuable for you to learn how to create CICD pipeline. And by the way, today we are going to focus just on deployment job, but with CICD you can have like validation jobs and many other jobs defined, but we are going to create the deployment job, and you will understand the base, the base of the CICD pipeline, like how it works, how it's created, and how these different pieces are coming together. And then once you know that, it will be easier for you then to explore other jobs if needed, like to create validation jobs, etc. Right? But the main thing is to understand the idea of it and how to create it, how to get started, right? Okay, so yeah, let's start. Let's dive in, right? So as I mentioned, I'm going to use my user. Okay, so this is my user in Salesforce, and for testing purposes, for this video, I will use my user as a deployment user. Okay. And as I mentioned, it's best practice to have a dedicated user in a real project for deployments, which will be intended only for deployment. Okay, right. Now we will create the JWT files. So the certificate and certificate signing request and the private key. Okay, so let me move to Visual Studio Code and in Terminal. So you want to store this private, especially the private key must be stored actually in a very safe place, because it's a sensitive information. Okay, but since I'm just playing around here on my dev org, I will store it on my desktop, right? So what I will do is that I'll navigate to desktop, and actually I have created here JWT folder, which is empty for now. Okay, yeah, actually I should go to JWT folder, and I will run here commands which will create private key and certificate signing request. So I have all the commands and scripts here which we will need for this video. Okay, I will briefly explain what they are doing. So these 4 commands will generate the private key and the certificate signing request in the folder in which we are located right now. In my case, now we are standing in JWT folder. So as you see here, I'm giving here the dummy password, and of course for your real project you want to have a strong password. Okay, and yeah, let's hit enter. Okay, so now it asks me to put here like country name, and it will ask me further information as well, company information as well. And you can put here actually fake details, it's not checked anywhere, but if you want to put here real details, it's also fine. So let me quickly fill it in. So San Jose State, okay, actually same answer. Organization name test, common name again, test, sffnoobs@gmail.com, challenge password, dummy password test. Okay, so let me go to JWT folder. As you can see, here are my generated files. So private key, and then this certificate signing request file, which we will not use in this tutorial because it's not needed. Right. So now with this, now we will create the certificate itself. Okay. So basically, yeah. So we are not using this certificate signing request file to send it to certificate authorization. However, it is still used here in the commands to generate the certificate, self-assigned certificate, which we are creating by ourselves, right? So as you can see here, it's still used, and also the server key, right? So let me copy this command. So firstly, we created private key and certificate signing request, and then with the help of those files, we are generating this certificate. Okay, so let's hit enter, and here it is, server certificate, security certificate. So okay, now we have certificate as well. Right, so now the next step is to create a connected app. Okay, so let me go to app manager and a new connected app. Okay, connected app name, Github Actions, contact email. Right, then you want to enable auth settings, and then the callback URL, I will give this callback URL. Okay, and then the available auth scopes. So in scopes, you can give full access, but it's not necessary. Okay, so what is necessary here is where it is. This one is necessary. This one and this one. Okay. Then what else? Yeah, use digital signatures. Yeah, this one. Here we want to attach the certificate which we just generated. Okay, this certificate. Open. Okay, and I think we are fine. Let's save it. Continue. Okay, now Actually, we will need consumer key, so we will grab it from here, manage consumer details. And I need to verify. Okay, okay, I'm back here. We put verification code, verify. Okay, so consumer key, and let me put it in separate notepad. Right. Okay, we can close this window, the tab, sorry. And now let's go to connected apps, manage connected apps. And here we have this GitHub Actions app, right? So we can go here now and we should edit policies. And we should change all users may self-authorize to admin approved users are pre-authorized. And what this is doing is that I will actually show you admin. So admin approved users who are pre-authorized allows only users with the associated profile or permission set, which we will specify now in a few seconds, to access the app without first authorizing it, right? So that's what we need, okay, for CICD job to work. So I will now click save, and we should now specify the profile or permission set. In my case, I'm using my user, which is system admin, so I can specify system administrator profile. Okay, and now that's it for this part, and we should now test it, like test the authorization with JWT. Okay, so I'm back to VS Code, and now we should run this command. So basically, let me show you here. If I open help, so when we want to log in with JWT, here are three things are required. JWT key file, which is the private key, the server key, right, which we have created in JWT folder, client ID, which is the consumer key of the connected app, and the username. Okay, so here, as you can see, also it has the short version. So instead of -jwt-key-file, we can just write -f as well in the command. Right, so I will use for this command these short versions. So sf org login jwt -f, which is for key file, will be okay. So I need to provide here the path. Yeah, this is the path. Okay, by the way, why I am inside JWT folder still? Let me go, oops, wait, let me go, oh, I need to go to test, is it test? Yeah, okay, so, okay, sf org login jwt f. Oh, I had copied the whole command. Okay, the path for the server key, which is this one. Okay, so I just provided here the path to that private key. And the next one, okay, now the client ID, which is the consumer key, right? So -I and private, now consumer key is here. Okay, and then the username. Oops, I wrote 0 instead of O. My username. Let's copy that. Okay, here's the username. Oops. And let's give also the alias. It's not required, but why not? SFF noobs. Alright, let's hit enter. And let's see how it goes. Successfully authorized. Perfect, it works. So we established the connection successfully, right? So now we can move to the next part. Now we need to go to GitHub. Okay, and here I want to define consumer, so GitHub secrets and variables. Okay, so because you don't want to like direct, so these secrets and variables will be used in the YAML file, which I will show you what it is later. In YAML file there will be actually the jobs defined, the commands defined, which will deploy source to the org. Okay, and they will refer to GitHub secrets. Okay, so instead of having the username and consumer key and private key and this information hard-coded in repository, which is also not safe, instead of that we will gonna store that information in GitHub secrets and variables. Okay, so we need to go to settings and then here secrets and variables, actions, and we need to define, let's first define the secrets under repository secrets. So what I'm going to store here, I will store here the username, the private key, and the consumer key. Okay, so let's start. First, yeah, I was already testing this actually before the video, so it's already prompting me to give the name. So okay, let's first give JWT server key, which is the private key, right? So for this, what I need to do, I need to open this server key file with the notepad and copy the whole thing from here. Okay, copy the entire thing from here. Oops. Okay, and paste it here. Add secret. Okay, new repository secret. Next one, okay, let it be deployment username. In this case, it's my username. Alright, let's get rid of spaces. Add secret. And new repository secret consumer key, which I have stored here. Okay, add secret. And then let's move to variable tab. And here I want to store the instance URL. Okay, new repository variable instance URL. Let's name it instance URL. And you want to go to my domain and grab instance URL from here, but do not forget to put HTTPS, okay, before the URL, because otherwise it will not work. So you want to grab the whole thing like this and put it here. Okay, like this. Okay, so make sure you're grabbing it from current my domain URL, right? and add variable. Okay. All right. Now we should create. So now we are going back to VS Code. Okay. And you need to have this kind of folder here. Okay, .github. So if you don't have it, you should create it. You should create a folder .github. Okay, and inside that .github folder, you should create another folder called workflows. Okay, and then inside workflows, I will create let's say another file called deploy-sffnoops.yaml. So yeah, YAML is a YAML is a language which is used for same purpose as let's say XML or JSON, right? But YAML is more human readable, and it is frequently used in CICD tools. Okay, so I have here the script which I will briefly explain to wait. Okay, right. So what can I say about syntax of YAML? So you can learn syntax of YAML in like basic syntax in like 20 minutes or so. There are plenty of resources about that on the internet. Okay, so I'm not going to explain syntax in this video, but I will briefly explain what this YAML file does. Okay, so here we are just specifying the name of this, like what is the purpose, and the purpose is deployed to sffnoops environment on push to main. So when the code is pushed to main, whether some branch is merged into the main or we are directly pushing the code to the main. Okay, so what it says here, this part, it says that on the push event, so when push happens to the main, again, even if a branch is merged to the main branch, or maybe if we are just directly pushing the code to the main branch, and when something is changed inside force app, then these jobs should be triggered. Okay, so then these jobs will be run. So here, like, okay, so now here we are getting the fresh environment, fresh virtual machine, fresh runner from GitHub, right? And it will run. We are specifying that it should run on Ubuntu latest because it's the most frequently used in CICD tools also, and it works fine. Here we are just specifying environment name, and this environment name might come handy when you have defined environments in GitHub. In my case, I don't have defined, but I can still just specify the name. Why not? So then what should occur? What steps should occur, right? So on that fresh virtual machine, we want to set up Node.js, right? Then we want to check out the source code. Okay, check out the source code, and you might have a question like, what is this? And this is already written code which is available on GitHub, which is available to use, right? And this is basically checking out the source code. So it's like taking out like source code, okay, kinda like copying the source code. And here fetch depth is 2, which I will come back to it, what it is. And I can actually show it to you. So this code is already available, and why should you write it again and include it in your files when you can already use the working version, which is used by many people, right? So here is the checkout. So actually these actions have as you can see, so this is written specifically for GitHub Actions, right? And you can see, yeah, one of the thing here is checkout, and yeah, this checkout is consisting of a bunch of code here, right? So you can just specify that you want to use it, and you will use it, right? Without writing it on your own by yourself, right? On your own again. So then we're installing SFTX, installing Salesforce CLI on the virtual machine of GitHub, which GitHub provides with us, the fresh virtual machine, the runner. And then we are installing the SFTX Git Delta plugin. So this plugin helps you to generate Delta package, which will contain, so here we are creating the change the sources folder, and then we are using the that Git Delta plugin to create a Delta changes package, right? So in that changed sources folder, the files which we are modified between current commit, so whatever is difference between current commit and the previous commit, right? So those files will go to that changed sources folder, and that's your Delta package, okay? And here we have the fetch depth of 2, and this is related to the fact that we are using here the 2 commits depth, current one and the previous one, right? So now we have the Git Delta package generated, and then we will deploy this Delta package and we'll run all local tests, okay? And here is how we are going to do it. Firstly, we will grab the JWT server key, which is the private key from the secrets of GitHub, right? And so whatever you named this in the GitHub, obviously you will if you named it in GitHub like private key, obviously you will write private key, right? So we are accessing the secrets and variables from here, which we created, right? So variables are accessed like this, vars dot variable name, and secrets are accessed like secrets dot secret name, whatever you named it, right? So here we are accessing the JWT server key, and we are creating server key file and save the content of this secret inside this file, and then we are trying to log in with JWT, and we are specifying that username should be whatever we have in secrets, and then we are specifying the server key, and the client ID, which is the consumer key, and instance URL. Instance URL. And then after it's successfully logged in, then we are just going to start deployment of our Delta package and run local tests. Okay. Right. So that is it. Now I need to deploy this to the org. So as you can see, we created the workflows folder, sorry, and the YAML file. So we're going to deploy it. Okay, pretty general commit messages. Obviously you want to have more precise ones in your real projects. And git push origin main. Right, so let's check this out. So I'm on my main branch, and here, as you can see, indeed we are having here this this YAML file. Okay, so now let's go back to VS Code, and we need to modify something, right? So here on my org currently, as you can see, I have here the custom form tab, right? Which has amount field and contact ID as well here. So let's remove those fields. Let's say I have a user story and I need to remove contact ID and amount field. So now Git should like see the change. Okay, so git add and git commit delete amount and contact ID fields from lightning record form and git push origin main. So now please keep in mind that once I execute that, sorry, I'm coughing because I have virus. That's why probably you're noticing that I'm pausing videos and I'm doing like cuts because I'm still ill. Okay, so please note here that here in our YAML file we are specifying that on push event to branches, to this list of branches, which is in our case only one member of the list, which is the main branch. And again, I'm reminding you, this push event doesn't just mean to push directly code to the branch, but it also means to merge another branch to this branch. This is also push event, okay? Of course, in your real project, you are not going just to directly push the code to the main branch, but you are going to, let's say, merge a release branch in your main branch, right? And this is also considered as push event. So when push event happens on this branch, then and files inside force app change, then this our job which we just created will be triggered. So now if I click enter here, we are pushing this change of lightning record form, right? So it will be triggered and then this job will be run. And also please note here we have test level set as a run local test. So local tests on your target org. So if there is not enough code coverage or if they fail or something, your deployment will be failed because firstly this of course tests will be run and then metadata files will be deployed. Okay, so I'm clicking enter and now our job should be triggered. If I go to the actions tab, as you can see, we are running this job and we see the commit message, right? Delete amount and contact ID. Okay, so it's running, it's installing sftx git delta. Okay. Create delta package. Successfully authorized. Okay, it's done successfully. Okay, now if I refresh the page, I should see amount field and contact ID fields are still there. Okay, let me go to the repository. LWC, Lightning record the form from JS. Okay, it clearly says here it should be deleted. Let's refresh again. Okay, so yeah, it was caching the old results probably, so yeah, that's why. So yeah, that's it about this video. I hope you liked it. Please press the like button to show that you liked the video, and subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and share this video with your colleagues who are in Salesforce ecosystem or your friends. And please comment down below if you have any questions, and also feel free to reach me out on LinkedIn. Bye, and see you in next video.